Hello guys, Rex here. Boundaries. Boundaries often are looked at as a sign of exclusion or in a negative way, usually by the people who are stopped by the boundaries. However, they are absolutely a thing of love for you and yours who are protected by those boundaries. Thankfully, for me, I have my boundaries are predetermined and pre-built because I onboarded ancient, time-proven methods and boundary systems that I didn't invent, that were not influenced by me emotionally out of haste or out of pride or ego or a fit, but rather things that are built on true principle. This is one of the values of onboarding those systems, those ancient time-proven systems. You can have absolute rest in the decision to follow his systems rather than ours. I think that a lot of us here in this digital world, who, if you're watching this on a phone, you're probably in the world where it's not real like life and death kind of stuff. So we volunteer for a lot of things that aren't healthy because we don't experience the fullness of the consequences because there's so much abundance in this country. But boundaries are important for long-term sustainability of your well-being, nonetheless, even though it's not as obvious as it might be in places where there's a limited amount of resources. Your limited resource here is time, right? And we all want to spend good quality time with those people who truly love us and who depend on us and who we are chartered to take care of, like your family, like your kids. And by not properly establishing solid boundaries with gates and locks, that those locks do not get unlocked except by the person who holds the key, which is the man of the house, who has, there's checks. You do not allow anything poisonous in your house. You do not allow anything potentially dangerous in your house. Like if someone's got a bad reputation for doing bad things to people, why would you let them in your gates whatsoever? And I'm not talking your physical property boundaries. I'm talking about your relationships. Okay? And so by having gates and boundaries, and they don't have to have spikes welded on them necessarily, right? How pointy does this gate and boundary need to be? Well, that depends on the kind of people trying to climb over it, right? Most people get the idea just from a normal white picket fence works in most circumstances, right? But if it's an extremely motivated person that's extremely hostile, a white picket fence is not going to cut it. You're going to have to, like if you go to the third world, they have like 8-foot high concrete fences, steel reinforced that cars or trucks cannot drive through. And they have steel rebar and spikes welded in them, cut off at an angle and sharpened. And they have broken glass bottles molded into the top cap with the concrete's poured on top so nobody wants to climb over the top without having to do some extra work. So how? Yeah.
The Papa's there, Papa, and then there was the gas truck.
No gas. Hey, can you go get your gas truck?
No, the gas truck.
Oh,
the truck
yeah.
flying out.
You have to protect yours. You have to protect your little ones and your wife from hostilities and poisonous behaviors that they might pick up on.
There's a blue duck, and that's her.
So that you can not only be careful not to pass that on to them by allowing them to see and experience the conflict and poison and vitriol and all the unnecessary, the manipulation. If you allow people to use you and manipulate you in whatever ways there is, you might think you're being a nice guy, but you're actually not, because you're wearing yourself thin. You're using up all your patience on someone who doesn't depend on you, and doesn't really truly love you, using up all your patience on someone who has made it their hobby because they are addicted to conflict, right? So you establish boundaries to preserve your patience and preserve the time too, right? Just the raw time. How much time do we spend a day on days of our lives? Probably too much. I've been doing really good on evading that in the last few years, and I'm doing a lot better. I'm a lot more productive for my family. And I'm like guarding my boy, right? And like we got to guard our kids against these operating, because they're going to pick up on that. They're going to see that. It is contagious. Negative manipulative behavior is contagious. Conflict is contagious because it's addictive, because it's adrenaline. It's actual biology. So what do? You have to establish clear boundaries with rules. What are those rules? Well, you are the man of the house. You choose what rules those are going to be. For me and my house, we serve the Lord. So it's his rules, which is clearly established. I take care of mama and the little guy. That's my responsibility. And so if someone tries to rope me out of my boundaries and volunteer me for other things that are outside those boundaries, there's another thing called the good idea fairy. A lot of times manipulation comes in forms you might not recognize, where people have their projects that might be okay, but one of their side things is they really enjoy volunteering you. With, the good idea fairy comes along. That's I think that's Army terminology, maybe, the good idea fairy. Like, no, we're not doing that. That's dangerous, right? But you got to be careful of what deals you volunteer for, because every time you go outside the wire, guess what's out there? Stuff that's not been filtered through your gates, man. And now you're like, well, we're outside the wire. It could be anything out here. Who knows what's going to happen around here? And then, God forbid, you cross into someone else's gates, and now they have the excuse to put you under their law, or their tyranny, or their expectations of what they think you ought to do. Like, we need to not venture outside our gates. And those gates follow us around. It's like there's a personal bubble around each one of us if you onboard that as your operating system, not just your physical property line. Does that make sense? So you have to have boundaries. And if you suck at guarding your boundaries, and someone comes in and they got a real good story why they should be in there, and why you should why you should come out. Hey, just come out here for a minute. I want to show you something. Like, I don't know. Like that, I'm pretty sure that's against my deal here. So I'm not exiting the safety and protection of the laws that I've been handed. I'm not exiting the safety and protection of the operating system I've onboarded from the Almighty. Like if someone wants to get you to do something that seems like a good thing, there's reasons, there's emotional, supporting reasons why this would be the nice thing to do for somebody. If it even just a little bit falls outside the bounds of the safety protection of the Almighty, or whatever your boundary rules are, again, you've exited the protection that you've spent all those years to develop, all the resources to develop your system of what your standards are and your protective mechanism. What is the point of having a big, giant, heavy-duty oak door on your house if you don't even put locks on it? There's no locks. Like, dudes just walk in wherever they want. Like, hey, right? You got to put the proper signage up. You got to put the proper gate up, so to speak. Does that make sense? And more so than physical boundaries, that's a typology for the greater concept, which is your personal boundaries and your rules. There are certain rules you should have. There are certain things you should choose ahead of time that you are not going to tolerate. And if you want the fortitude and the strength to be able to stand for and guard those boundaries on those standards, if you made up those standards willy-nilly by yourself, how strong is that? Or have they been reinforced for thousands of years under pre-existing systems created by the Almighty? How strong is that one? I'm sorry, like you're basically running into an impenetrable force field that I have volunteered to stay on this side of. And you can walk outside the force field if you want. But then guess what happens when you venture out there? And the people who are trying to get in to get you to come out of the force field, they'll be crying and smacking it and screaming and having a fit because you're not coming out of your force field. They'll say all kinds of wild what's the matter with you? What are you being so judgmental for? What the hell? Don't you want to help us, like, save the children? Like, hey, man, I am bound by my covenant to actually do this thing, which is the onboarding of the commandments. No, I'm not going to do this even that one time, whatever, even how small it might be. No, I'm not going to steal the Tootsie Roll. No, I'm not going to violate this deal, which is a risk literally to my family, right? No, it's not going to happen. And if they don't like that, here's the thing, and this is the funny part sometimes, and unfortunate, you can learn a lot about who people are for how they approach your gates. Are they like snooping around trying to get around where the gates are because they don't like the standards posted on those gates? You know what you post on your house? A lot of people do it just for ornamentation. There's functionality to that. The rules. You put the rules on there so that they know what needs to be squared away before they enter within that force field zone. Nobody gets through this zone unless they're adhering to these rules, because that's this area here is these rules right here, period. Posted on there. And what's the words that are on there? The words that are literally on it means to, like, hear and do. Not just hear and know, hear and do. You have to do the things that are on there. You don't just got to intellectually know about them and then sing a song about it or something. You got to actually do those things. They're functional, practical, like, commandments that actually are beneficial to our lives. To maintain a healthy, happy homestead with no days of our lives, with no miscommunications. There is no miscommunications when people all agree to not only know about the operating system and then do other things. That shit's confusing as hell. But to actually know, hear, and do those things, which is the words that are literally posted on your gate posts. The ultimate home security system. I posted that like what, June, I think, last year? Nobody really asked. They thought it was some weird esoteric, like kind of code or something. Like, hey guys, the ultimate home security system, right? Like, be quiet, don't ask him. It's probably some weird stuff. It's not that weird. It's literally just posting, hey, I'm doing what Papa said to do in this area. And then when you go to Walmart or wherever, like, hopefully you're not going there, but you know what I mean? Like, you bring that same thing, that same wall of protection moves with you. But if you don't man it because your feelings caused you to let down your guard, and you just you throw the keys on the other side, yeah, go ahead, open it up, it's fine. I know you're not exactly operating by these rules, but the number one threat is infiltration of his law. And it's not done always in a consciously evil manner.
A horsey.
A horsey? Really? Oh, cool. Mm-hmm. But you got to ask yourself, how much treasure do you have in your gates that you need to protect? Right? And do the people that truly love you, what is their behavior at those gates? Are they throwing a fit at the gate? Tossing accusations? Cursing you? Being a smartass about your gates? Doing subtle manipulative things like, oh yeah, nice gate you got there, What does that tell you about their intent for you versus their intent for themselves? They're trying to appropriate something. Pure and simple. You can't let people do that with your time and your family and your walls. And you don't need to volunteer for every good deed that you ever, someone else thought of to try to trick you out of your gates, even if they're not it's usually not conscious. You see, people just simply don't realize that most people who have good intent and honest to God think they do not realize this yet, and they will not realize it until their bubbles are appropriately burst. And I'm not the one to do that, I hope. Life will do that. If they're his, the circumstances will be arranged by the Almighty to pop their bubble, in which case they will realize 99% of us think we've come into enlightenment because we've onboarded information here. Yeah, you go ahead. You're going to go ahead? Thank you. They have onboarded information on their head, and now they take the name of that system and they put the label on there. But everything inside didn't change. It remained the same operating system. The same operating system we had since we were children. Self-centered ego, trying to use everything and appropriate everything, including the religious labels we inherit, to add on to what we already have, without clearing the hard drive and starting over from scratch and re-uploading a whole new deal. If you don't get rid of that hard drive programming that we inherited, it's all dysfunctional. And what you have is people running around thinking, oh, look, I have Windows 94. It's an upgrade. Or whatever year we're in. Okay, I don't know. That's not even the operating system that, you know what I mean? You have to get the other one off first and then put that one on, right? Like, you can have the sticker on there, but if you still got all the old stuff, and it's so easy to know and see because it is proven in what we do, and more so the motives and our expectations of when we do these things. We talk about that quite a bit here, right? Motives are important. Like, you can do things externally that are designed to be seen in the sight of men. And it triggers the same emotion, a similar emotion that you might have from doing a real good deed. But what is that then functionally used for? The function of it is to be later weaponized against who you perceive to be your enemies so that you can gain hierarchy. If you're scrambling for hierarchy in all the good stuff you're doing and trying to weaponize those things against those people that are, that love you or whatever, right? This is why it's called Babylon, because it is confusing. It's confusion. And so what you'll see is an inconsistent application of the wholeness of the communication, the wholeness of the operating system. When you type in, all right, we're going to do this function over here. So I got the suite of software, right? We got this one, that's the numbers. We got this one, that's the writing. This one, that's the pictures. And you go into the pictures one, and you're like, wait a minute, the hell's this? First off, it's glitching. Second off, I don't think this is right. Well, did you get the other stuff off the hard drive first? What did you upload in here? You got part of it in there. We selected parts of this new identity that we were converted, whether it be you converted to Christianity, okay? And you still kept all your worldly stuff, your self-centeredness and your ego. And everything you do within Christianity now is actually designed, like the religious hypocrites that Yeshua fought against the whole time, is designed to make yourself awesome and everyone else is dumb. That's really the telltale sign. Is a lack of humility and a lack of empathy for other people on those regards. It's used as like rank. Well, I know more than anyone on this. Oh boy. Oofta. I'm just going to back away, man. And then you establish your boundary, close the door, just lock it like, I'm in my force field now. Continue to do whatever you're going to do. I'm going to be in here under the safety. So we use them for hierarchy, right? We don't use them for what the real deal. Or whether you did this like coming out of religion. Let's say that you converted to science. You're a smart atheist scientist guy now. What are you using that new? Did you know that you kept your original operating system?
I will go right.
Good job. Thank you. Did you know you kept your original operating system of acting religiously, which is basically an emotional experience rather than a facts-based system, a facts-based process that is functional within a certain application? Nope. You converted from an emotional religious person because you got burned on your religion, and you took that emotional functionality, that emotional operating system, and put it over here. You got rid of your God label and you put on the atheist label. Smart guy atheist. I'm a scientist. And then when you look at science, you're still operating on the old system, which was still the religion, the emotional self-centered thing. The same thing the religious guys that you hated were doing. You were in the same religion. Problem is, everyone in that religion wants to be the chief at all times, and there's only room for one of you. You're always fighting because everyone has to be in charge all the time. Because nobody's paying attention to the actual operating system, which has everything in their lanes. If everyone's in their appropriate lane, with humility and happiness, you have peace. But if you don't, because you are anomia without law, but you take on the label and put it on there, oh, I like the law. It's your new identity. You didn't onboard the law yet, because it's just not functioning. And it's impossible to have it and not function within it, right? Usually we can get tripped up, right? Everyone has their bad days, right? Or let's say you change from churchianity to the real truth system. Like, let's say the one that I'm into, whatever that might be, right? There's all kinds of people that exit churchianity into that, and they're operating with the entire system, with all the sayings, with all the beliefs on how stuff is working, with all the same superstitions and magic stuff that, it does not hook into the actual operating system. Why do I keep saying that word? Because it implies action and functionality. It's not something that you just know. Oh, Jesus loves me. Okay, that's a thing that came out of your mouth, but is that your operating system? Oh, I'm with the commandments and stuff. Like, cool. Is that your operating system? Because it seems to me most of us are in the same exact spot that everyone is born with. Original sin. And that's a bad word. It's not really appropriate in the English, really. But the idea that we're all faulty, that we're all self-centered, and we're all so self-important, and we don't think of other people's needs. All we can think about is acquiring new weapons to gain hierarchy. And you're going to find those weapons in religion. You're going to find them in, mainstream Christianity, apostate Christianity. You're going to find them in the big ones like, the old ones. You're going to find it in the Jew stuff. You're going to find it in the Messianic stuff. You're going to find it in the spirit-driven stuff. You're going to find it in the Pentecostal. Name it. The Baptists, what's their God? Being smarter than everybody half the time. Not all of them. But I'm just telling you, like, everyone brings that same malfunction to the table, and they put on the garb of the religious deal. Every single outfit, from agnostic, atheist, old school Christian, apostolic Christian, Catholic, Protestant, ones that don't think they're Protestant, ones that think they're, on this side, guys that have been covenanted, guys that know how to pronounce words certainly, or properly, right? Everyone all of a sudden has acquired new weapons so that when they perch in front of each other, they can just be higher than the next guy. Where's the functional, humble, loving part that is patience and where there's not confusion on what we're supposed to do in every detail in life, right? And so when we are without the system, when we are without the protection of the law, we make up the laws we go. I kind of remember the Bible saying something like this, but my feelings, I interpret it this way. Dude, it's bullet point listed. There's no guessing. It's so simple. If you just onboard the law, the hard part is letting go of all my ego and how smart I think I am. That's the hard part. You have to have your bubble burst for that. You onboard that for real, and then it's really easy Because he said exactly what all the pertinent, like, important things are. Every detail. What's for supper? I don't know, but I can tell you what you're not, like, do not eat porcupines, like, by swallowing them whole. That's not on the menu. Why? Because it hurts. You want to eat poison ivy salad? Okay. So it has that, like, what are we supposed to do in this circumstance? What about this guy? I really like him. I think he was a good guy, but he did this horrific, nasty, terrible, disgusting thing. But I love him. So, like, what do you do then? The system has predetermined all those functional points so that you do not have to, so that you do not have to wonder, so that you can have a solid ground to stand on that protects you, that is actually built on truth. And I'll tell you what, the more you experience the functionality of the system, the more you see how it protects you from all the dumb stuff of the world. And if you implement the system effectively, for real, not just the label of it, there's not a lot of dumb, you do not encounter the same things that you used to in your old life. And if you do, you simply go, oh yeah, okay, gosh darn it, that deal fits in this category. Like, if we do not adhere, here's the standards for the stuff within my deal, right? If you want to hang out with me, then this deal is not permitted. And if you yell at that, then I can see you're an enemy of my operating system. Doesn't matter what people say. Functionally, that's the fact. Then they have to go outside of that. Like, okay, well, do whatever you're going to do. That's fine, but I'm not going to spend 1 calorie of my life worrying about stuff that gets properly, put outside of that, because I'm protected within here. The point of it is so I can have shalom, peace, whatever word you want to use, okay? Namaste, right? I don't know, like whatever, right? The point is so that I can live a happy, wholesome life and actually do my will and be, what's the word in the Bible? Separate, which in the English is translated to holy. Doesn't mean I don't say naughty words and drink beer. It means I'm set apart from the world. I'm totally different, incompatible with the world. Oh no, you're not going to be able to get along with a bunch of crazy people that don't care about you and want to use you. Thank God. It's good news. Did you know that's the good news part of it? What's your perspective? Is the good news that you get to, like, get a label and then still have the old you, the man that should have died to himself, so you can onboard a new man and be like him? You see, if you don't, we can say that and not do it. But if you do it, guess what? It's like way better. It's like way easier. There's no drama. You don't have to, if you enforce and guard the gates of that system, there's no drama. And as hard as it might be for some nice people to do, you have to man your gates. If you've got people who do not want to conform to the standards of what you have posted on your gates, doesn't matter how much they think they do or whatever, like, if they are not functionally living that, and on top of it fighting against you for trying to do what you're doing by yourself, then you have to, like a switch, disconnect that train car, let it roll away. Good luck. I don't know, like, it's not vindictive. It's not evil. You don't wish destruction upon it. You're not compatible with it. It's screwing up your operating system. And your deal needs to work so you can take care of your charter, take care of your family and your kids, and do your job. And you can't do that when everything's all jacked up. So yeah, you might have to not hang out with certain people. And some of the people you hang out with, you might never thought in a billion years were the ones you'd be hanging out with. Like, that guy's not as cool as I thought, like, or whatever, right? It's a whole different, his ways are not our ways. And a lot of the emotional derived functions that we still have in our old system, sometimes if you don't root them out, they're still kind of hanging there. And you got to systematically allow that defragmentation process to come through and clean up your disk, if you will use the computer deal. I don't know anything about computers, but you have to continuously introspectively check to make sure stuff is operating properly. It's possible maybe you got something that uploaded wrong. Okay, let me go back to the original disk. Oh yeah, oops, I forgot to do this, like whatever, right? Then the cool thing is, it's not confusing. There's no updates. It is the perfect program, I believe. The perfect program, no updates needed, no change in how it works. You do it one time and it's solid. But if you plug into certain, diseased things on the internet and like bypass the filters that are in there and the gates, well, you screw up the deal now. So you got to be careful what kind of behavior you allow and what kind of operating systems you allow within proximity of those you love. And they're very evident by people that are continuously wrestling with stuff on a different level that's like, man, I was there. I don't want to go back there, man. Right? So do yourself a favor and enforce your boundaries. First off, define your boundaries. What are they going to be? If you don't know what they are, then study and find a good one. I found an excellent one for me. You got to find something that's excellent and then stand by it. Hopefully this finds you well and helps you to navigate the dangerous battlefield of life. You only got a certain amount of time. You need to spend it with those that love you and that you are charged to, the ones that actually love you and need you to be there to care for them. If you burn yourself out on all of the shit that's trying to continuously tear you down, bring you down, insult you, go against your system, violate your stuff, throw shit across the fence at you, hurl accusations, you gotta close the gates, man, and smile. Then you can sit in your yard and enjoy your tea or whatever you're doing. I'm telling you, it's a lot better. Rex out.